Welcome to Watching Westworld, the officially unofficial podcast for Westworld on HBO. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And we just got done watching Season 2, Episode 6, titled Phase Space. This is our initial impressions. Phase Space is hard to say 5 times fast.
Phase Space.
What did you think of the episode?
Well, my old buddy Kim Renfro got reacquainted with her at the Game of Thrones con of Thrones.
Uh-huh.
And so she got the 5 screeners in advance, and she didn't see this episode, but she said the scuttlebutt was it's a game changer. And I'm like, well, if no one's seen it,
yeah, who's saying that?
The Westworld showrunners are saying it's a game changer. Okay, we'll see.
Jonathan Nolan's mom is saying that.
Yeah,
she's very happy with her boy's work.
But I do think that if you're a casual watcher. This is where the people that don't listen to our speculation, like, their minds are blown, because the game has definitely changed. It's just this was one of 3 or 4 very popular theories that that the Cradle's entire purpose is to sim out Westworld to as a QA, a continuous quality improvement thing, and that Ford had backed himself up into it. And
I think the most interesting thing about that is why.
Yeah.
Why? What exactly is this plan? And there's a lot of speculation around that too, but they don't reveal any of that in this episode. So.
And I think the other thing they're doing in these episodes is kind of like calling into question what that even means. Like, is that really Ford? Because with Teddy, so there's a lot of stuff that I really liked in this episode. For example, Teddy's changes and how it's very unsettling, and how maybe Dolores isn't quite sure of what she's done, or maybe it felt very like a Twilight episode, like a Stepford Teddy. Stepford Teddy wife that has I just he'd be the perfect man if I just removed his 2 or 3 imperfections, and he's not even the same guy anymore.
Oh, not at all.
And so I think that they're playing with the idea that very small changes can have these chaos theory butterfly wing flap effects. And also, I really like that.
Like the stuff that Elsie is talking about with the simulations in the Cradle. She believes that they're actually people in there,
Right.
Whereas Bernard is saying, hey, they're just data. I feel like they're pushing into that concept as well.
Right.
And when you look at a simulated Ford, it all is kind of a piece,
Well, that's
is this really Ford?
And that's, every time humans are presented a Matrix scenario where it's oh, what if this is all simulation? It is an unsettling feeling, right? Well, if you think that these are people, or at least potential, have the capacity to become people, it's hellish. That's their Matrix. And instead of providing power and sustenance to machines, it's just providing amusement and I don't know, maybe a way to live forever. There's always that stuff too. But
no, I like this episode a lot. I thought it was a good mix. It didn't give me that whiplash feeling that I was talking about with the last 2 episodes, where one week it was all theory busting and it was all plot, and then the next week it was all emotion and Maeve. It was kind of a
this
good
is a
mix
nice
of
mix
both of those.
Because some of the strongest material continues to be stuff with William and his daughter.
Yes,
those fuckers had me thinking that, because I was in the back of my mind, I'm Kim's game changer in the back of my mind, and I'm like, it would be kind of wild if the Man in Black chooses his daughter over the Park and does the full hero turn, which is kind of they've been setting us up for that, and I think that really worked on me, because for a brief second I thought, oh, he's going to, but then as soon as he says, let's get up at sunrise, and the sunrise came, just the way they shot it and the musical cue and the way they shot her waking up, I'm like, damn, they got me. And also maybe him getting his daughter drunk a bit was to make sure she slept extra heavy. So
right, so when the horses ride out, she doesn't hear the clomping of the hooves. And it was a really excellent performance, not even just from the 2 actors in that scene, but from the 2 characters. The Man in Black is putting on an excellent performance for his daughter here.
Yes.
Tricking her into thinking the same thing that we as an audience are thinking.
Well, I think that there is the genuine, it's right there below the surface, so he's able to tap that, the tears in his eyes just to sell the effect. I think I think he is sad himself, in a self-loathing, self-destructive way, that he cares more about this than his daughter's happiness, because she's laying it all bare. Dad, I'm sorry. I stepped over the line by saying it's your fault Mom died. And if you just come with me and not kill yourself so that both of my parents haven't done this, that would I'm really
it's devastating,
Yeah, and he's like an addict that's going to sell his child down the river for another hit.
Well, I think,
and that is sad, and I think he knows it's sad, but he also is powerless against whatever hold this place has on him.
Well, she had him. She had him until she mentioned how she'd take a ride on the pleasure train, and he just did not want to hear that.
That was pretty. That was pretty well played.
That,
the Pleasure Palace, and I rode there for a few days.
Pretty good.
That was cool. What about, man? I think the stuff that's going on with Ghost Nation is pretty fascinating too. Because they wrote up the Maeve. I mean, there's a couple things I'm not sure about Maeve. I'm going to kind of like attack it and I'm gonna defend it. But the stuff that I really like is I catch it to riding up to her, and you think that because so far we've had this theory that he's just trying to save the humans, but he addresses her and says, "You and I are on the same path. You should come with us." The fuck does that mean?
That's a damn fine question.
So
I don't know.
I want to attack the Maeve plot line because if I think because I've gotten the feeling that there's a lot of dude and dudettes on the internet that are starting to not be sure about the way this show is going, and it's starting to lose them. There's some people whose suspension of disbelief or willing to buy some of this high-minded up its ass bullshit is coming to an end, and they're starting to like get antsy. And I think if you're in that crowd, this episode might have, because you're seeing Maeve is going to go fucking walk in this valley for 30 miles, leaving all her badasses, taking no weapon. Like, she's going to go, first of all, she's expecting to find her daughter there, which why the hell would she expect that when it's been several days of this maniac park? Oh, by the way, Ghost Nation happens to riot out and to reenact their, like, bullshit kidnapping and killing scenario at the same time. Like, that's pretty good timing. But now I'm going to defend it. From my suspension and disbelief still intact point of view, I mean, Maeve is very smart, and we like her, but she's really naive, like literally like a newborn. You know, she's got all of her 99% of her life experiences have been fictionalized manipulations and stories, and that's not real life experience. So. Like, the fact that it never occurred to her that her daughter might be gone or her daughter might have been replaced or that
have a new mother.
Have a new mother, for example.
Like this look of shock on her face, a bulk apperception pinned at the very top of the charts.
Right.
And she didn't put those concepts together.
But I feel like that's, you know, since it would make sense if all your life has been a story that you would not consider about what would happen if your plans don't work out. Because the other crucial thing is since Maeve has been awakened, pretty much all of her plans have worked out. Like, there might have been temporary setbacks, but they led to more awesome things, like her having mental power over all the robots. So I guess I'm still digging it, but I can understand why people are like, the hell is going on.
Yeah, no, I thought it was all pretty solid, you know, with some minor quibbles about like those types of internet-y nitpicky things.
Yeah. I do want to say there's a couple things I didn't like about this episode. Where are you at with like the gratuitous, pointless violence? Like nailing Peter Abernathy to that fucking table with a literal giant like first of all, 15-yard flag for a self-congratulatory, way too obvious Christ imagery, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's like that. Come on,
with the nails.
Come on. Second, that's the best way. That's the most effective way to restrain these robots. Really, with that laboratory.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's just torture porn at this point.
It seems like it. It was also, I thought, pretty awful CG. Those nails were moving around a little weird to me.
Yeah,
but
I also, and if we're gonna get really petty, that pile of Japanese samurai corpses. That was some like I think they got some of those severed limbs from the Kings Island's Fright Fest. Like from the slaughterhouse. Those are fucking foam, rubber, latex with, it's like, come on, man. You can't just go to, what is the big haunted house out in L.A.? Everyone always talks about something farms or Landshire Farms, whatever. You can't just go to them and get their rejects and call it good, man.
No, I think these are the Sector 19 folks who were carting around those really fake ass looking bodies.
Right.
I think those are the
It could
hosts.
be. It could be.
They don't trust them with the good parts.
I also like the heart ripping out scene. That was, I mean, that could be like literally a tale right out of Japanese literature, and they're playing homage to it. So it's
I have a question about like what is this ceremony that she's doing? It seems
extreme, but like, you know, whatever. And the other thing I like, Bernard getting strapped and getting his brain ripped out with no pain dulling. Like, go fuck yourself. I've seen Elsie just hook up a laptop to you and like make you ignore noxious stimuli and keep surviving even though you shouldn't, and reboot your brain. Like she's got no time to like do some like turn off pain receptors. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, she's got your tablet still, right?
Which is like I get it. Bernard's really badass for letting that happen to himself, but
yeah.
I also one last thing. I don't like this mustache guy. Because in my experience, guys that act like this are not
Muldoon.
Muldoon.
His name isn't Muldoon, but
right,
it might as well be. Sure. Yeah, the Raptor Hunter.
You know, underneath his combat gear, he's wearing khaki socks pulled all the way up to his knee.
Absolutely, he is.
And he's gonna say, "You're a clever girl" to Dolores. I feel you 100% on that. He's a fucking cartoon character. Like I hope that I'm picking up what they're putting down, and I'm not supposed to take this guy seriously, that he's going to be...
Well, here's the problem. He's the guy you are supposed to take seriously because he is the lampshade for the shitty security that we have seen up till now.
I'm not buying it. Because this guy... This reads to me as a wannabe professional. As a guy who's very insecure. And everything about him and how dismissive he is about the people who work there. And how...
You know what? He, to me, is... Jesse the Body Ventura in Predator. Like he'll roll
again
in
a cartoon character.
Yes, an absolute cartoon character. Muscles bigger than brains.
Right.
Ego bigger than his muscles even.
Yeah, and I don't know that's. I mean, I'm hoping that he'll be exposed as a buffoon, because if he ends up being like a real true badass and super, I'm like,
I think he's gonna get his guts ripped out. I think
so.
Yeah, Dolores is gonna roll in. Teddy's gonna roll in, and he's not.
That's true. They already got that. They already rammed the train through the tunnel, so to speak.
They did. Is
that
a pleasure palace?
I don't know. I was thinking. I had the image of that GIF of the tunnel. Have you seen that? Like the cartoon train. Like for okay.
No,
yeah,
I haven't.
Let's just keep moving then, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really curious. So when Emily's talking to her dad, the Man in Black, she mentions that Charlotte sent her a gauntlet invite. She uses the words gauntlet invite. What is a gauntlet invite?
I don't know.
What is the gauntlet?
I don't know. Are you
sure
that
like go through all the parts?
Because I noticed. Here's one thing I'll say. I noticed the closed captioning tonight was god awful.
Oh, maybe it was that.
Like Teddy's like, you said you want to leave at Stump, and then they attributed Elsie as Hale.
Oh, Jesus.
And there was one other like god awful. Like what the hell? So like it's. I think she said gauntlet invitation.
I think so.
Like maybe it's more of like, do you have the balls to come here and celebrate this thing?
Could be
after you're estranged from your dad. Like I don't know. It could be.
You have the balls to come here and make up with your dad.
Right. Like this is an invitation, but it's also a gauntlet I'm throwing. Like it could be that. It was. I thought it was a weird phrasing, and also could have been terrible.
I'm kind of intrigued by the idea that there would be this gauntlet where you go through all of the parks.
Yeah.
And try and get like
yeah.
I don't know, trying to achieve something.
Like some kind of Kessel Run. You get so many scalps out of Westworld, so many katanas out of.
You got to find the maze. You got to find the door. You got to find the Felix body shoot. I really love that scene when he jumps right down that.
Yeah.
That body shoot. That was pretty funny.
So yeah, I don't know. There's the other thing I really liked about the Emily and the Man in Black or William scene is. This is another, parent-offspring relationship, and it also ties into the theme of it's like puts him aside. It puts him apart from like the Dolores and the Maves of the world, because they're like doing all these things to save and protect their family, or he's like running headlong into danger to try to not caring about hurting his family. But I also like he explicitly said, "Are you threatening?" versus, and she says, "No, I'm asking you." Which is the dichotomy between Maeve and Dolores. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing with that, but I think you're supposed to notice those things.
Yeah, there's a lot about what path you're on and choosing your own path. And that kind of thing.
Exactly.
In this episode, I'm looking to wrap my head more around that.
It was nice for Maeve to get hoisted up on her own petard.
It was that she threw just right back in her face those words about path.
Yep. I also really like the samurai fight scene, and that's one thing I sat up and noticed because I did a bunch of research on that Musashi, his namesake, the actual legendary Japanese swordsman. And one thing that I learned in reading is that he's known as being a master of this particular two-sword technique, where he emphasized fighting with your katana and I forget what the smaller sword is called, but you're like he considered it like be an amateur hour if I want to talk like Mustache Muldoon. Think that might be the character's name from now on.
Probably.
But yeah, it's real amateur hour shit if a samurai can't use both blades equally well and at the same time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Japanese art that they had on like a wiki page just shows him like 16th century illustrations of him like swords akimbo.
Nice.
And I struck the pose in the podcast because why the fuck not?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff with like this simulation that Bernard's now in, and it's running. And, like,
right.
I just have like so many things I want to talk about. Not enough time here to do it, but
right.
We'll do it on Tuesday.
I mean, I'm very curious about because I buy the Cradle's the simulation thing, and I buy that Ford could be hiding out in it. But like what I'm going to have trouble understanding is Bernard's going in there to investigate the corrupted code.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? He's going to, like, look into a rain barrel and see some... I mean, how are they going to visually represent that? Because I've been praising in the last few weeks Legion and the way they do this, where it's just very fantasy and metaphor. Like, like they just... Like Legion a couple weeks ago showed a human being being uploaded to a mainframe, and it looked like being drug into a Garden of Eden and a tree growing its roots into your brain, and then you wake up in a steel box with ones and zeros being rear projected. And I didn't have a single fucking problem because it's a comic book show and that's how they roll.
Right.
Westworld is really got this high-tech shit going, and it's going to I think they're kind of handcuffed to that, and it's going to be very tricky for them to kind of sell that imagery in a way that I think is going to be satisfying to the fan base they've cultivated.
Yeah. You
can't just be like yada yada, oh, it's kind of an emotional kind of thing. You got to really, I think, get to the nitty-gritty, at least for me.
All right. I think that's probably going to do it for the Instant Take podcast portion of the show. Yeah. Is it time to turn it over to audience feedback?
Right. I guess so. First up, Aaron McPherson says he thinks the Gauntlet is the gala invite. I mean, yeah, that's what we think, but like it's a weird. I thought it was structurally weird to refer to it.
Yeah, it's a strange name for what isn't inherently a challenge to show
up
to
if she says,
a fancy party.
When Hale threw down the Gauntlet by inviting me, I couldn't just leave it. Like it's just like I accepted her Gauntlet invitation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kamish42, what exactly is the Cradle and why is Sweetwater happening inside of it? I mean, so in the first week or two, there was, if you're playing this Delos alternative reality game, where it's a website where it's, Delos destinations, and you can put in like the username and password you've seen Catherine Hale enter in the first episode, and you can get access to different things. And one of them was a map of the Mesa, and they identified that there's this Cradle thing. And there was like this marketing materials of like how Westworld provides you the best unparalleled experiences. And they said that they do intense simulations to continually perfect their scenarios and their story writings to get. So essentially, they inside the Cradle, they can host these host consciousness. They can host the host consciousnesses and have them do their thing hundreds and thousands of times, very rapidly iterate, and they can debug that and tweak the storylines and do. So that's its purpose, and it also serves as a backup for the host consciousness. So if one of them gets irreparably destroyed in the field, like when Maeve set herself on fire, they can pull that, and that's why losing that and a third of the host was devastating to their IP. But yeah, so apparently it's a simulation running like that.
It is.
So, next, Brian L. Stubbs' first name is Ashley, according to Mustache Muldoon, but with a name like that, with the name, sure. I know, but I'm saying with a name like that, I don't know you should be judging Mustache Muldoon.
Yeah.
M squared. Rob Crawford, Muldoon versus Ashford from The Expanse. Who you got? Ashford from The Expanse. Ashford. He seems like he's that's the way
through some shit.
That's the way a professional comes in and starts professional shit with somebody. Muldoon is is walking in with clown shoes, in my opinion.
For sure.
Like I've met these guys and they never fucking live up to their hype. Yeah. Never ever ever. Maybe one in a million. Maybe those like the general fucking patents that you'll be like, oh, this guy's full of shit, and then he's breaking you over his knee. But usually, it's like it's the bite. The bite is inversely proportional to the bark. Let's see, Luke L. That's we're going to
gauntlet?
No, it's flagged by our moderator as might be informed or spoilery, and it does have some. There's a couple of aspect ratio kind of things that I don't want to get into right now. We'll talk about that in the speculation and analysis section of the Thursday or Tuesday podcast. Dasbone665. I like how the cradle is spelled CR4DL.
Yeah.
Ha! I didn't
even
read.
Speak.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wonder if it has any meaning within the universe. If CR4DL means something, you know.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's the actual model name. They started calling it Cradle, like the way the
it could be.
Humvee is actually that stands for. That's an acronym, but it's a little on the nose. Like I don't know. Like it was named the Romper Stomper. You know.
I feel like they do that though with like, I mean, sometimes they go very like doublespeak sort of thing. They name it the opposite of what it is with like bills in the house or something.
Sure.
But I feel like they do that often.
Right. And I guess because like one of the ideas for the cradles is where all the consciousness were born or something, and I guess it being a simulation of life, like, hold on a second. Excuse me. The cradle doesn't actually have anything like that's an association with birth and infancy, and this is just I guess maybe I'm being a little too dismissive because where's the cradle? Where's the cradle imagery here?
I don't know.
That gives you
the cradle of life sometimes used to refer to like the Earth as a whole, like kind of the world that we live in.
You think this rapid simulation is?
Inhabit.
Oh, I wonder if that's what the deal is. That this being able to do all instead of like. William was obsessed with getting his father back in meat space, and Ford has been running these things in simulations lightning quick, so he's like that many years ahead of the technology because he's like, I don't give a shit about printing out a body. You're going bottom up, I'm working top, or you're working bottom down, I'm working top up.
Yeah, I feel like Ford might be in there to make sure shit goes really wrong for the humans in the park, like to keep all the systems offline. That kind of thing, but I don't know.
Here's something we didn't talk about in our just bullshittery. Dashbones665. I guess Dolores is trying to reverse engineer Bernard to make Arnold and make it work, but to what end?
Oh, yeah. I was wondering if this wasn't like
fidelity.
a long, a flashback to. I don't know.
Yeah, because there's some extreme ways you could take this.
There's a lot of stuff in here because, like, now you could say every single thing we've seen in the entirety of Westworld has been inside the simulation that is the cradle.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of throws another crazy ball in the air. It would be incredibly stupid and
I'm
shitty.
prepared to say that's a little St. Elsewhere snow globe for me.
100%. I would hate that outcome.
Yeah.
But you have to question, like, is what I'm seeing with Bernard happening in the real world, or now that he's actually in a simulation, is it happening in the simulation?
I'm going to take a stab at it and say that there's a couple possibilities I see. I think that perhaps 30 years ago, this all literally happened. Like, maybe the plan was for Dolores to kill Arnold, but to replace Arnold with a host, so he didn't actually die. And
let me ask you this. Does Dolores, as a host, maybe know more about who Arnold was than Ford even does?
Yeah, because she spent so much
was being interviewed by him all the time, and so maybe Ford used her to try and recreate Arnold in the form of Bernard.
Right. You saw their breakdown in communication late in their careers, so that would make a lot of sense.
It could.
The other thing I thought of is, like, if I'm right about Ford using this simulation to really fast track the whole process of, cloning the team, and maybe Dolores finds that out and then uses it that, she's got 12 days to rapidly iterate with this Bernard to get a perfect Arnold copy. But what 35 years after his death, why do you want to resurrect Arnold? That's what I don't understand. That's, to me, now one of the big mysteries. Like, what the hell's Ghost Tribe up to? And why is she obsessed with bringing back this human?
Also, what the hell happens to Ford? Because we know the cradle gets destroyed. So is Ford removed from the cradle and taken elsewhere?
I think that's why it's important that Bernard pocketed that red ball, because that's where they're gonna pull Ford out of the cradle and put him into that.
Okay.
I will say, because like.
So
that's the other thing me and Kim were talking about. Like, what are the odds of Anthony Hopkins coming back? And I'm like, I just don't see it. And here the fuck he is. So
yeah, he showed up.
Double dumbass on me.
The first episode she doesn't see it.
Yeah. Right. Sick. Yeah.
She's already making the predictions.
Let's see. Let's move on. Josh T. The LC attributed to Hale was as Bernard was getting into the cradle, which could be a time jump thing, and he's getting into the cradle in the future with Hale, or just a mistake. Well, yeah. I mean, the problem is I saw lots of closed caption fuck ups this episode. Like again, Dolores did not want to leave at stump. Okay.
No.
She wanted.
Are you sure?
And maybe that's a fancy old West way of saying sun up. We gotta get up at first stump. It's like it's a weird fucking contraction, but yeah, it could be. We'll have to watch it. I mean, that's we've only seen it once. Let's see.
We didn't talk about the previously on, which I thought was fucking weird and crazy.
Yeah, what is up with the? I mean, are they taking a cue from Mad Men and they're just gonna make these perplexing but stylish?
It seems like it.
Previously and next time ons, because it was just this like kind of like, what would you call that music, like staccato or? And just very quick half-second fade in and fade out scenes of
no dialogue.
No dialogue.
It was all just music, and it was like a vignette, like just this mashup of shots. I thought it was kind of cool.
I did too. I'm wondering if it's going to be like what the rest of the season is, or how they're going to do the rest of the season. Also, these last 2 weeks, instead of being next week on, they're saying season 2, which I think is their way of like really fucking with our understanding of what's going on. Because instead of like, well, this is next week, you have no idea if these scenes are from the finale or whatnot. I don't know. I just wonder if that's another. I'm starting to see how they've like defensively started writing the show, because the Ford in the cradle has been kicking around for 2 or 3 weeks, and bam, episode 6. Yeah, fuck, he is. What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah,
back to square one.
If I were a writer rather than a speaker, I would probably right now be typing away furiously at my keyboard talking about the massive amount of faith that I think this show has in its audience. Yeah. Because to do a previously on like that.
Especially since, again, they are moving even further out of the mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you get that there's definitely people that are like, you know what, I don't know. I was in it for the robots and the blood and all that stuff, but this is just cradles and doors and mazes. Right. Fuck all this. Yeah. Brian L. By firelight, Ed Harris can rival Tommy Lee Jones in leathery faceness. Yeah,
I need to go back and watch that. But
that's
yes.
that harsh lighting just really highlights every crag and wrinkle. The D Mac attack. I'm wondering if there's any significance to when Dolores has an accident and when she doesn't. Oh, an accent and when she doesn't. No,
yes, there is.
Totally. Like the less accented she is, the more her who's the bad guy?
Wyatt.
The Wyatt persona is taking over.
Yeah, that was the thing in season 1 that I know Evan Rachel Wood addressed specifically. So yeah.
Yep. Luke L, do you think the limits to our brain are physical? Would we think better with a couple more gigs of RAM? I don't know that you can analogize our hardware like that. I do think that like if I don't know, it'd be cool to have like an extra processing unit. Like I think it would be cool to have like a cybernetic where like if anytime I thought about a math problem, it would just go to that thing and like mentally give me the answer back.
Like a subroutine that's
exactly. Or pattern matching things. Like if but I don't know that like what would making our RAM be bigger look like.
I don't know.
To your point, though, like it's kind of a well-known evolutionary fact that our brains are exactly as big as they can get before the lethality to our mothers would be a self-selecting pressure. So, like, much bigger, and we kill our mothers in childbirth. So,
I feel like now that we're doing, more operations to have children pulled out,
that could be
that could change.
But it might. But you're talking 100,000 years of, and also I think
2 generations from now we're gonna be the fucking Roswell aliens landing.
I mean, I was saying with genetic manipulation, you don't have to wait for the 10,000 years of cesarean sections. You can just start fucking with the genetics and growing us in vats, and we'll have vat-grown babies 100 years from now, and we'll eat the baby. We'll eat those that are cows. Dave McCoy 6. The elephant question was a test, right? And Emily failed it. Oh fuck! Seriously?
And Emily, like that she's a host? No, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I'm not going. I don't think so either. But it's still. We said when we first saw her episode, it's super significant that no one performed the host test on her.
It is. Yeah.
And he did say, you came all this way without a fucking scratch. She got tackled off a cliff by a fucking dingle tiger. They're the worst. They really
twice
cling.
As big as a Bengal.
They get their hooks in you and they just cling. You can wipe and shake and they'll never come off.
It takes a dip in an ocean apparently in a sea.
I mean, that might be a big rope-a-dope they're pulling on us.
It could be, yes. I also had like a thought about this map that she's following.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that is not her journal that she's searching for something. It's the map that her father was using. That's his journal.
Oh,
and he was using it to try and find the maze with the door.
And he's following her. She's following in his footsteps.
Yeah, okay. To try and find him.
Man, I didn't even consider that, but as soon as you said it, I started thinking like, oh man, we totally forgot. We liked Emily so much that we totally forgot that we first suspected that she's a robot. Kamish42, anyone else confused by why the Sakura host body would have a heart inside? Or do hosts have entire human anatomy now? Yeah,
I think they do.
We're supposed to understand that the new versions of them are essentially are 3D printed human beings with some important changes in like probably physiology, and they have the explosive vertebrae and they have antennas stuck up their ass and stuff like that. But they are meat.
But they are
meat bots.
They don't have is a typical human brain.
Right. Oh yeah, they do. Like
you couldn't drill into their head and find a brain.
Like that's what Elsie said. She goes, this is for the older hosts have the articulated skulls. Your head's just like mine. Well, literally not, because it's got that little ball inside of it. And there must be some sort of way to mate that up with the human brain so it all works.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's way future technology. But
I feel like there are a lot of people who would test that. You know, they'd go into Westworld and they'd try and find the seams. And they'd pick at them. So like bash a host head open and see what's in there.
Yeah. I mean, that's
really break my illusion, my immersion.
Right. Yeah. Look at it. There's a marble in here. Bullshit.
Yep.
I want to take it home for a souvenir. Let's see. Cape Gabe. Why didn't that tech break a window and jump off the train? Who's to say he didn't? That's what I thought. I'm like, yeah, this train's barreling down at 80 miles an hour, but I'm going to take my chance with that jump rather than put a bullet in my head or ride it into the station.
Or, I mean, he's in the engine, right?
Yeah.
Could he hit the brakes?
It looked like they locked him in. But I guess that's what he's saying, like, why didn't he break the window? Because then you could actually jump as hard as you could and try to cancel out that momentum. But you're also landing on train tracks.
Yeah.
Which is a bad way to go. I'd try to jump to the side, like diagonal.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably going to die no matter what, but, you know.
I'd get on top and I'd surf it. I'd just ride it right into the tunnel.
I was gonna say that's the other thing I was thinking. Like bullet to the brain, like you can fuck that up. People do all the time. If you just ride the train and it explodes, you will die.
And
pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
I'd go try to find explosive and just sit right on it, and then it's guaranteed it's gonna be atomized. Let's see, Josh T. It's funny that was super obvious that Maeve's child would have had another mother, but I didn't think about it until Maeve was walking through that field.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people thought about that, myself included. Because that's about when it dawned on me. I was like, she's going to get there, and this daughter's going to have a new mother.
Yeah.
It's not something I'd heard talked about before.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising.
Seth said, why did Maeve even run away from Ghost Nation? I don't think she can control Ghost Nation, number one, even with her newfound mental powers. Although, maybe she should have tried.
She should have tried.
But the fact that she couldn't even hear him coming, like, that's probably a sign that she did.
But she's also right off the back of not being able to control the... I don't think she could control the samurai, whoever that guy was.
Oh, I think she could. She just chose not to because Masushi wanted it that way.
Could she? It was hard to tell because he's reaching for his blade, and it could be that Maeve is making him reach for his blade, but he doesn't stop reaching for his blade when she lets go. So
that's my opinion, but we'll have to watch it and see if her opinions change. But the why she ran away is because her daughter doesn't know she's a robot and she might die, and Maeve doesn't want to see that happen. And that's the thing I don't understand. Like, how much damage can Dolores take now? How much damage can Maeve take? Are they essentially invincible unless someone hits them right in the brain?
Yeah.
They also, even then, Dolores, she's a little cavalier because people get shot in the head all the fucking time.
Sure.
Especially when you're getting shot by trained mercenaries with modern weaponry. It just feels like some of these robots are a little too cavalier with their lives. Chemish42, how do you get from Shogun World to Westworld in a couple hours? Doesn't it seem like the views from these places are 100 miles apart, or taking underground transport? I've always assumed that once you get under the tunnels, that there's elevators and tubes and fast walkways and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, I just came out of an airport this morning.
Yeah.
They've got that shit.
They do. They do.
And it's much smaller than Westworld.
Yes.
So probably.
Let's see. Brian L. I thought they're going to cut off Abernathy's legs. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, this is very Saw. This is very hostile. Hostile, yeah. It's very Eli Roth is what I'm saying. I don't usually get down on that. Metal Wolf. Bernard doesn't have time to explain why he doesn't have time to explain. Yeah, he doesn't have time to dull the pain. He doesn't have time to explain. That's a Destiny reference. Dave McCoy, do we have to ask how much of the last episode are happening in the Cradle simulation rather than a real timeline of the real world? Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But I hope that they know that the more it's all a simulation, the more I'm going to be like, well, it's time to cancel my simulation of giving a shit. Because that's running at a pretty high fidelity. But if you start pulling that, like, there's no way. There's no way. No way.
They will use it for, I think, very targeted, focused purposes.
I mean, that works in Rick and Morty for 20 minutes when it's all ha-ha. But over 16 episodes and 2 years of my life, no, that's not very funny, man. Not very funny at all. Kenny T, I don't think it's established that the Cradle is a connection to the host now that they're off the loop. Oh, no, I don't think they're a real-time connection. I think it's literally just a closed simulation.
Yes, they are running locally in the computers inside of the Cradle.
And I like the way it was visualized. Like, if you looked at the Cradle, there was all these stalks with, like, branches coming off, and at the end of each branch was one of those red marbles. Like, these are literally, like, these red marble brains that are plugged into. I think that's what I saw.
The Tree of Life.
It is. It's a cradle of robot civilization.
Yeah. Pick a metaphor and go.
Cape Gabe, from what I remember from Ready Player One, aren't the swords named Daito and Shoto? I mean, one's a katana, right?
I mean, man, I'm so ignorant about swords. I don't know anything about it. I can't speak to it.
Yeah.
But I thought in Ready Player One they said that.
Right. Yeah, I thought the first paragraph of fucking Wikipedia would tell me, but it's not. So we'll look into that for the because I'm kind of curious about that myself.
Yeah.
Let's see. Josh T comes back with, so we have to ask again, are any of the hosts really conscious, or is Ford actually controlling all of them to some extent? Even Maeve, who overrode her programming, might have been so ordered by Ford. I guess.
Well, they make a point to say that the Cradle, you can't get remote access of that kind to the Cradle.
Yeah.
Now, okay, wave your hand and you're Ford and you can do magic, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But I don't think there's any connection to the park itself right now.
And also, I do think we have to start, consciousness is a continuum. And like the one emailer said 2 weeks ago, there's a difference between conscious and free will. Because it's it's entirely possible in our world that, the fundamental rules of the universe, when we finally understand them, it's purely deterministic.
Right.
So like all we can do, like our choices are essentially pre-made. All we can do is try to understand them and put them in context. And I mean, honestly, that would be a game changer for if you could ever prove that the universe was entirely deterministic.
Yeah.
So I have no problem believing that the robots are conscious, but like you could refer to them as brainwashed or manipulated or duped. Like countless humans fall under those categories, but they're still conscious beings.
Right.
So I think to me, I'm less and less interested in the debate about whether they're conscious beings or not. They look like a duck, they act like a duck, they quack like a duck. I'm starting to think we should just call them ducks, whether that's technically true or not. It's a useful descriptor. Glenn S, let's not forget the intro with Bernard and Dolores and the Fidelity. We talked about that. Kenny T, Ford T, if Ford does have a god complex, but if it's all him controlling it, does it take away from the hosts? All hosts are just avatars of Ford. This
is a really good question, because Ford has been manipulating things.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's his simulation in there manipulating things, or if this is like some pre-programmed stuff that he's doing.
I mean, if you're talking like, because like let's say that like the young version of Ford and like you know, Giancarlo Esposito version of El Lazo, those were literally avatars of Ford, right?
Yeah.
Is that is everyone literally Ford wearing a mask and he's playing all the parts? He's like a one-man stage play.
I don't know.
Seems like that would appeal to Anthony Hopkins. But I mean, that's the thing. Is like, it feels less interesting to go in that direction to me. But they might. I don't know, and maybe they'll make it cool. Let's see. Captain Gabe. Maeve is like the Jedi. Her powers only work on the weak-minded. Let's see. Brian Els agrees with you. You got the impression that Maeve couldn't control the samurai. I only thought that since it seemed to take her longer than others that she had taken control of, but it wasn't super clear. I thought, I mean, so to me that you're supposed to understand that when Akane asks her to intervene and she says everyone gets to make the choice, that like I don't think Maeve would lie to her. If she could not intervene, she'd be like, I'm powerless. This guy's beyond my control. Because that makes Masushi look even like a more badass. Yeah. But she chose to say everyone gets to make their own choice for their fate, which is different than I can't do anything about this.
Yeah, you're right about that.
She's got too much respect for Akane to like fucking lie to her. Let's see.
But she'd be lying to herself, wouldn't she?
Oh, yeah, self-deception's a thing. Josh T, the cradle does have a connection to the park because it's stopping people from overriding systems, so it seems like it's also connected to the hosts.
Yeah, and I guess that's what all of this interaction from Ford has been with the Man in Black, I suppose.
Right.
It's him kind of monitoring the park from within the cradle.
Right, where he can see everything and affect everything, but nothing can affect the cradle without actually being there.
I need to go back because Bernard very specifically says you cannot do something remotely. You have to be in the cradle to do it. And I don't remember what that thing was exactly, so I got to go back and watch it again.
Right. Let's see. Dashbones. Were Ford and Dolores playing the same song on the piano? Captain Gabe suggests Seven Nation Army.
No, it wasn't Seven Nation Army.
Maybe, or so I'm not. I don't have a great ear for music. Or if they were playing the song, I think it would be the song that like that was special to Arnold, that was playing when she killed him. And I think didn't someone say that was what she was playing on the piano when she was at William's house? It would make sense if this is all some kind of fancy tribute to Bernard or Arnold that they would be suggesting that by the piano playing. It's super like here's another thing I want to throw out there. When evil Teddy comes in and challenges Dolores about why the hell she's not leaving at Stump, she looks like she's kind of confused, like why am I playing the piano here? Like, you know, they're still gassing up the train, but like, so that's the beginning of the episode.
Coming back out.
And then the end of the episode, Anthony Hopkins is there playing Tickling the Ivories. Maybe they're suggesting that theory about him, you know. So then
puppet mastering Dolores.
Yeah. I mean, how would you feel about, like, I honestly think that's what they've been telling us this whole time, that Dolores is actually, the reason she's so stagey and artificial is because she is being manipulated. But, you know.
I guess the thing I like about that is it adds potentially an extra layer to Ford's death.
Yeah.
Where, you know, that wasn't the moment where he's saying this plan is going to reach the culmination.
Yeah.
But that's like stage 1 of the plan, and stage 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many stages he's got, will eventually culminate in the awakening of Dolores.
Well, and I've been thinking, like, there's also a possibility that Ford is going to make one final face to heel turn and reveal to be the bad guy. And, like, you thought I was liberating you all, but no, I'm just trying to live forever.
Yeah.
And then but he is true in a certain point of view, because Maeve is the one that actually did make an authentic choice. She was programmed to escape the park for some unknown reason, and she rejected that programming and chose her daughter. So I would be I guess I would feel kind of disappointed if Maeve has been under Ford's control this whole time, because then there's nothing different between Dolores and Maeve. There's no contrast. It's the exact same story, and that better have a very interesting conclusion, or I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? I feel.
Yeah, I can just see Nolan and Joyce sitting back, watching the reaction to Dolores' character this entire season, where people are pointing out how ridiculous and bad the writing is, and they're just cackling. They're just saying, this is all part of the plan, you fools. And you're stumbling right into the trap.
Right. Well, I think that's a pretty good instant talk.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I did like this episode.
We're going to get this podcast edited now. There's one more thing we're going to do tonight. Carter, a guy on our forums, had made a really funny supercut of Lunch with Jim and Aaron last week, and we kicked ourselves for not live watching it. We're going to live watch that and post our reaction. Do you want to do that?
We're live watching it?
Not live. I'm just recording it and uploading it.
God, I fucking hate reaction videos. I love the video he made. I hate the reaction videos.
I promised that we do it.
You can do one.
I promised that we'd do it, and we're gonna do this one time. And if you hate it, then we'll just never do it again. But
okay. There's gonna be too many cooks where it's just like.
Yeah, what if he shits the bed on this one and it's just us? Be like, it's bad. No. It's a bad video, Cart. You made a bad video. And then he's crushed.
Yeah.
But that'll be on YouTube here in a bit. So thanks for being part of the club. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for all the great topics and questions and comments. Full podcast will be out Tuesday afternoon. Until then, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Jim.
See you later.